Hello out there, all of my spooky loves. Welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, hello. My name is Cemetery, your resident spooky ghoul. And if you are new here, I hope that you will consider subscribing and also turning your notifications on to be notified when I upload. Also, please consider liking and commenting down below. So today's video is going to be part 2 of my story of blindness. If you haven't watched part 1, I do suggest you go back and watch it. So this part we are starting with after I was diagnosed with my eye condition, which, like I said in the first part, is juvenile macular degeneration. So once I was diagnosed and my mom knew that I would need some help to thrive through school, that is when things started to change, and she started pushing for me to get the assistance that I needed. So one thing that not a lot of people know is that the school actually was pushing for me to go into special needs classes, but my mom did not want that for me. And there's nothing wrong with being in special needs classes. So if you are in special needs classes, or if you were, or even if you know somebody in special needs classes, there is nothing wrong with that. But my mom did know that I could handle my own in the standard classes. So one of the very first things that I got to help me was a personal aide, and she would be with me in class. She would sit next to me and she would read things to me that were on worksheets that the teacher handed out. And then when I would give her the answers that needed to be written down, she would write them down for me. She would also have a personal sized whiteboard, chalkboard, and she would write things on it that the teacher was writing up at the front of the class on the big chalkboard. And this way she could, make the letters bigger so that I could see them, and I could have it close up to my face to be able to read it. So that definitely helped a lot. I was finally able to do the worksheets that the teacher was giving, and I was finally able to keep up with my classmates. And thanks to that, I was able to move on to the first grade. So in the first grade, I still had my own personal aide, but this time I had a different aide. And this aide that I had in first grade was actually with me from first grade up until I graduated my senior year of high school. And she was amazing. I absolutely loved her. She was more than just an aide. She became a friend of the family. My mom loved her. My grandma loved her. She would invite me over to her house to have dinner with her and her husband and her kids. She would come by to visit me on my birthdays and, give me little birthday presents. I would give her birthday presents on her birthday, because our birthdays are actually very close together. They're actually just a few days apart. So she was definitely just a lot more than an aide, and we are actually still close today, even though I graduated 10 years ago. We still keep in contact. She actually came to the hospital the day after I gave birth to my son. So we are still very close. But she had the same role as the aide that I had in kindergarten, that she would read things to me on worksheets, fill in answers for me, write things down that the teacher was writing down on the board. But one thing that changed in first grade was that I started to be introduced to learning Braille. And for anybody that doesn't know what Braille is, it is a raised series of dots, and the dots make up letters and also numbers. and even like symbols. And once you have, these collection of dots that make letters, you can, combine them to make words, obviously, and you are able to feel these dots with your fingers and be able to read. So I was introduced to that in first grade, and it definitely was overwhelming. It was a new thing for me, obviously. When you're little, you're just learning to read and write. And, that was learning to read and write print. And then all of a sudden, I was having to learn to read and write Braille. And being a little kid that didn't know that you could even read using your fingers, it was new. It was overwhelming. But it, something I got used to. I did Braille basically throughout my whole school career. I really don't use Braille very much now that I'm out of school, but I do still use it occasionally. It's not something that I've completely cut out of my life, but obviously when I was in school, having to write essays and things like that, I use Braille a whole lot more. So another role that my aide had since I started doing Braille was that she would transcribe the things that I wrote in Braille. And all that means is that above the Braille that I wrote, she would write in print so that the teacher or whoever else needed to read it was able to know what it was that I had Brailled out. What else? So let's see, another thing that I was given to kind of help when it comes to learning things was a clock for when we started to learn how to tell time. And it was just this big like plastic clock. It was black and it had these tactile white numbers on it, and then it had the clock hands on it. And basically this was just so that I could feel the numbers, be able to see them better because it was white numbers against a black background and the numbers were quite big. And I was able to learn how to tell time using that, and I was able to keep up with my classmates when they started learning to tell time, because they would have like these little tiny clocks that the teacher would pass out to each student, and you would work with it at your desk, and she would tell you a time, and then you would make that time on the clock. And obviously I couldn't use the little tiny clocks that the other students were using, so I had a big one, and it definitely helped. I was also introduced to using a CCTV, and I think that there's another thing called a CCTV, for security cameras or something like that, but I'm not 100% sure. But the CCTV I am talking about is for visually impaired people. And basically it looks like a computer monitor, and then underneath the computer monitor is a place where you can set paper and books and other things like that. And what you place underneath the monitor then appears on the screen, and you can adjust the size of the magnification. So basically what it is, just a magnification device. And like I said, you can adjust the magnification to make it as big as you need it to be. So that was something that I used. And even though that was a very big help, because I was now able to read books myself, and I was able to read these worksheets myself and able to fill out things on the worksheet myself, having this device did put a big target on my back. And basically what I mean is just, it was something that none of the other kids used. None of the other kids used this device. None of the other kids knew what it was. And, they found it weird. And I kind of find it funny, I guess, that people didn't really find it weird that I had my own personal aid, or that I had this like big clock that I would use. But when I had this machine that was, you know, big and bulky and just different, more people started to realize that I was different and realize that I wasn't the same. And that did, you know, cause people to start bullying me and making fun of me and me being an outcast. And like I said, I am so grateful that I had that technology and that I had that machine, because it made things a lot easier for me, school wise, and, you know, getting through my schoolwork and stuff. But socially, you know, it made me an outcast. And as a little kid, you know, being an outcast really hurts. You know, you want to make friends, you want to have friends to play with at recess, you want to have friends, you know, to hang out with at lunch and stuff, and you want to be accepted. So it definitely was hard. Another bit of technology that I had was a computer program called Zoom Text. And basically it's just a program that you put on the computer, and you go in and you select the program, and then you can select your magnification that you need, and then it just magnifies the things that are on the screen so that it is easier for you to read. And that definitely helped a lot when we started doing things on the computer. Like they would have us do little computer programs and stuff, you know, math and reading and things like that. So that helped a lot. And it was something that, once again, I was able to do myself, and I was able to do something else like the other kids around me. You know, I didn't have to have my aide reading the things to me on the computer screen. I didn't have to have her selecting the answers for me. I was able to do it myself, and it was definitely something that made me feel, I guess, quote unquote, normal, and like that I felt, you know, that I fit in. So, I did pass first grade, since I had all of these new things to help me, these new pieces of technology and these new assistive devices, and, you know, that I had Braille, and I was able to pass first grade first time around. I didn't have to repeat, and I was very happy about that. And basically just throughout the rest of my school years that I had vision, I used the CCTV, I used the Zoom Text program, I still used Braille. So I think that I'll probably stop here with this part, and then I will do a part 3. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and comment down below. And also, like I said in the beginning, if you are new here and are not subscribed, please subscribe and turn on notifications. So I hope that you all have a awesome day, and stay spooky, everybody.